Chapter 1. Maybe next year. I remember the exact shade of gray in that conference room. The walls were glass, the skyline of downtown Chicago stretching behind my boss like some kind of corporate throne. I had worn my navy blazer, the one I bought after closing the Wilson account, the one that made me feel like I already belonged at the executive table. I had been at that company for 9 years. 9 years of early mornings, 9 years of cleaning up other people's mistakes, 9 years of staying late while the guys went out for drinks with him. And that morning, that was supposed to be mine. He didn't even look nervous. My boss leaned back in his chair, folded his hands across his stomach, and said it casually, like he was commenting on the weather. "We've decided to go in a different direction." Different direction. That direction had a name. His name was Ethan. 3 years at the company. Nice guy. Average numbers. Golf buddy. I kept my posture straight. "I thought my performance review last quarter—" "It was strong," he interrupted. "Very strong. But leadership isn't just about performance." There it was. I felt the room shift. 2 HR reps, 1 regional director pretending to study her notepad. I asked the question anyway. "What is it about my leadership that's lacking?" He gave me that tight smile. "You're excellent operationally, but sometimes you can come across as intense. We think with a little more seasoning, maybe next year." Maybe next year. 9 years. 2 record-breaking quarters. 3 accounts I saved from walking out the door. And the answer was seasoning. I nodded, because that's what women in corporate America learn to do early. We nod. We swallow it. We smile. But something inside me didn't swallow that day. Something stayed stuck in my throat. As I walked back to my office, I passed the team bullpen. They looked up at me, waiting for some kind of signal. I gave them a small smile. "It's Ethan," I said. He got it. The silence that followed was louder than applause. One of my analysts mouthed, "Are you kidding me?" I shook my head slightly. Inside my office, I closed the door and just stood there. 9 years. I thought about the nights I reheated dinner at 9:30 p.m., the weekends I brought my laptop to my parents' house, the relationships I put on hold because this is the building phase. And suddenly, for the first time in almost a decade, I asked myself something dangerous. What if this company isn't my future? My phone buzzed. LinkedIn notification. I almost ignored it. Almost. It was from a recruiter. Subject line: "Confidential leadership opportunity. We've been watching your growth." I stared at the message for a long time. Because sometimes rejection doesn't break you. Sometimes it redirects you, and I didn't know it yet. But maybe next year was about to cost him everything. Chapter 2. The call. I almost ignored. I didn't respond to the recruiter right away. That would have felt impulsive, emotional, reactive. And I wasn't emotional. I was strategic. At least that's what I told myself as I reread my boss's words in my head for the 100th time. Maybe next year. By 6:45 p.m., most of the office had cleared out. I could hear laughter down the hall, Ethan and a few managers heading out to celebrate. No one invited me. That part didn't hurt. What hurt was realizing I had once been the one walking out of rooms with leadership. Now I was the dependable one, the reliable one, the safe one. I opened LinkedIn again. The recruiter's name was Claire Thompson, based in New York, specialized in executive placements. Her message was short. "Hi, Megan. I've followed your growth at Harper & Cole for years. A competitor is building a new strategic division, and your name came up more than once. Would you be open to a confidential conversation?" Your name came up more than once. That sentence did something to me. I typed back carefully. "I'm open to learning more. Discretion is important." Her reply came within minutes. "Of course, they're very aware of your recent promotion decision." I froze. They knew, which meant the industry was watching, which meant my work hadn't been invisible. 2 days later, I took the call from my car during lunch break. I drove to a quiet parking structure 3 blocks away from the office, just in case. Claire's voice was calm, precise. The company is expanding into the Midwest market. They need someone who can build from scratch, lead strategy, build a team, direct P&L responsibility. Direct P&L? That wasn't just a promotion, that was authority. Why me? I asked. She didn't hesitate. Because you've been doing the job already, just without the title. I leaned back against the headrest and closed my eyes. 9 years, record numbers, team loyalty, client retention, without the title. She continued. They were surprised you weren't promoted internally. I let out a small laugh. Yeah, so was I. Then she said the number. The base salary alone was 28% higher than what I was making. Signing bonus, equity, executive title, full autonomy to hire my own team. And here's the part that made my pulse spike. They want to move quickly, within 3 weeks. 3 weeks. For 9 years, I had been patient. Suddenly, the universe wasn't asking me to wait anymore. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with a legal pad, 2 columns, stay, leave. Under stay, I wrote loyalty, familiar, team. Under leave, I wrote growth, respect, power. 1 column looked sentimental, the other looked like my future. The next morning, my boss stopped by my office. Hey, he said casually, leaning against my doorframe. Don't let this slow you down. You're on track. Just keep proving yourself. Keep proving yourself. I looked at him differently this time, because I finally understood something. I had already proven myself. He just needed me small. 3 days later, I flew to New York under the excuse of visiting a friend. The interview wasn't in some cold boardroom. It was in a high-rise overlooking Manhattan. And when the CEO walked in, he shook my hand and said something no one at my company had ever said to me. We've been trying to recruit you for 2 years. 2 years, while I was waiting for next year. By the time I got back on the plane to Chicago, the offer was sitting in my inbox. Official. Signed. Real. I stared out the window as the city lights disappeared beneath the clouds. For the first time since that meeting, I didn't feel rejected. I felt chosen. And I hadn't even told my boss yet. Chapter 3. The resignation. The offer sat in my inbox for 48 hours. I didn't open it again. I didn't forward it to anyone. I just let it exist there, like a loaded decision waiting for courage. Saturday morning, I took my coffee out to my small balcony. Chicago was cold, even in early spring. The kind of cold that wakes you up whether you're ready or not. I thought about who I had been at 27 when I started at Harper & Cole. Hungry, grateful, eager to impress. Now I was 36, experienced, proven, still waiting. I opened the email. Title: Vice President, Strategic Expansion, Midwest Division. Vice President. Not maybe, not next year, not seasoning. Vice President. I signed it electronically before I could talk myself out of it. The moment I clicked, accept. My hands started shaking. Not from fear, from clarity. Monday morning, I wore the same navy blazer, not because I needed confidence this time, but because I wanted the symmetry. I printed my resignation letter. 1 page, calm, professional. After 9 years, I have decided to pursue an executive leadership opportunity. I didn't mention the competitor. I didn't mention the promotion. I didn't mention maybe next year. At 9:12 a.m., I knocked on his open door. He looked up, distracted. Hey, Megan, what's up? I closed the door behind me. I wanted to speak with you privately. That got his attention. I handed him the envelope. He opened it casually. Halfway through reading, his posture changed. He looked up at me. Wait, what is this? My resignation. Silence. You're leaving? His voice had that edge now. The one he used when a client threatened to walk. Yes. For where? I've accepted an executive position. With who? I'm not prepared to disclose that yet. His jaw tightened. This is about the promotion. It wasn't a question. I held his gaze. It's about growth. He leaned back in his chair, exhaling sharply. Megan, this is emotional. You're reacting. I almost smiled. No. For the first time in 9 years, I wasn't reacting. I was responding. This decision isn't emotional, I said evenly. It's strategic. He stood up. We were grooming you. You were on track. On track for when? He didn't answer. Instead, he tried a different angle. You know the market is volatile right now. A new division? That's risky. So was staying invisible. I'm comfortable with risk, I said. That part surprised him, because I had always been the stable one, the reliable one, the one who cleaned up risk. He ran a hand through his hair. Is this about money? We can revisit compensation. There it was, the counteroffer reflex. I've already signed, I said. That's when it hit him. Not that I was unhappy, not that I felt overlooked, but that I had options, and he hadn't realized it. He stared at me for a long moment. When were you going to tell the team? After this conversation. He exhaled again, slower this time. You're making a mistake. Maybe, but it would be my mistake, not one assigned to me. I walked out of his office lighter than I had felt in years. By 10:30 a.m., the leadership team knew. By noon, my phone started buzzing. Is it true? Where are you going? Did they finally promote you? One of my analysts came into my office, eyes wide. You're leaving? Why? I looked at her. Because if I told her the full truth, she might see her own future in it. I was offered a leadership role, I said simply. Her face changed. Not shocked. Inspired. By 3 p.m., I noticed something interesting. My boss's door was closed. Ethan looked nervous. And for the first time in 9 years, I wasn't the one waiting to be chosen. They were the ones scrambling, and they still didn't know the best part. Because my new company, their biggest target account for Q3, was Harper & Cole's top client. Chapter 4. The Reveal. By Tuesday morning, the tone had shifted. People who hadn't spoken to me in months suddenly wanted to connect. Calendar invites popped up with vague subject lines. Quick sync. Transition discussion. Future planning. Translation. Damage control. At 11 a.m., I was called into a leadership meeting. Same glass conference room, same skyline, different energy. This time, no one leaned back comfortably. The regional director started. We're surprised by your decision, Megan. You've been a critical asset. Asset. Not leader, not visionary. Asset. My boss kept his eyes on a printed copy of my resignation letter, like it had personally betrayed him. We'd like to understand your timeline, he said. My last day will be in 3 weeks. I'll ensure a structured transition. And where exactly are you going? The regional director asked, more directly this time. I paused. This was the moment. I've accepted a vice president role overseeing Midwest strategic expansion. The words landed heavy. Vice president. I saw it register across the table. My boss looked up slowly. With who? He asked again. This time I answered. Sterling and Pierce. Silence. Real silence. Not polite corporate quiet, the kind that tightens throats. Because Sterling and Pierce wasn't just a competitor. They were aggressive, well-funded, and recently vocal about expanding into our territory. The regional director blinked. That's ambitious. It is, I agreed. My boss's voice hardened. They're building from scratch. That's unstable. They're building with intention, I replied calmly. He leaned forward. You'll be competing directly against us. I'll be doing my job. That's when the meeting ended abruptly. Not officially, emotionally. By 2 p.m., the rumors had outrun me. Slack channels went quiet when I entered, conversations stopped mid-sentence, Ethan avoided eye contact, and then my boss did something I didn't expect. He called me back into his office. The door closed. His tone was different now, lower, controlled. Did they approach you before or after the promotion decision? I met his eyes. Before? His jaw tightened. How long? A few weeks. He stared at me like he was recalculating every conversation we'd had recently. You interviewed while we were discussing your advancement? I explored an opportunity when mine stalled. He exhaled sharply. You should have told me. I almost laughed. Should I? So he could suddenly see my value? So he could rush a title change to keep me contained? I did tell you, I said quietly. I told you I was ready. That landed harder than anything else I'd said. He stood and walked toward the window. You're putting us in a difficult position. No, I was putting myself in a powerful one. That afternoon, an emergency strategy call was scheduled without me. I knew because my calendar access to certain shared files was suddenly revoked. Subtle, petty, predictable. But here's what they didn't know yet. Sterling and Pierce hadn't just hired me for optics, they hired me for insight. And their first expansion target? Harper & Cole's largest Midwest account. The one I built, the one I nurtured, the one that trusted me, not the logo. 2 days later, that client emailed me directly. Subject line: Heard you're moving. Inside: Congratulations, let's schedule time once you're settled. We value working with you. Not the company, me. For 9 years, I thought loyalty flowed upward. Turns out, it flows toward leadership. And for the first time, I was about to lead without asking permission. My final week was approaching, and they still hadn't realized. They didn't lose me when they denied my promotion. They lost me the moment they underestimated my options. Chapter 5. Next year came early. My last day at Harper & Cole didn't feel dramatic. No cardboard box, no teary hallway hugs, no farewell cake in the break room, just quiet observation. It was strange how quickly 9 years could shrink into a laptop return and a signed exit form. As I packed the framed photo from my first leadership retreat, I glanced around my office. This room had once felt like proof. Now it felt like a waiting room I'd outgrown. At 4:30 p.m., I sent my goodbye email. Short, grateful, professional. No bitterness, no subtle shots, no explanation. Just this line at the end. Thank you for the opportunity to grow here. Because I had grown, just not in the direction they planned. My boss stopped by at 4:52 p.m., almost closing time. He stood awkwardly in the doorway. I didn't expect this, he admitted. I nodded. I know. He hesitated. You were valuable here. Were. I hope it works out, he added. So did I. But not because I needed validation, because I was done asking for it. We shook hands, 9 years reduced to a firm grip and corporate politeness. As I walked out of the building, security badge turned in, the glass doors slid shut behind me. And instead of fear, I felt relief. 2 weeks later, I stood in a different glass office, different skyline, different logo on the wall, same navy blazer. My name now read, Megan Whitmore, Vice President, Strategic Expansion. The team I hired sat around the conference table, people chosen for hunger, intelligence, and integrity. No golf buddies, no placeholders, no next year, just talent. On the screen in front of us was our Q3 acquisition strategy. Target number 1, Harper & Cole's largest Midwest client, the one I built from scratch. I didn't need inside secrets. I knew their pain points. I knew their growth frustrations. I knew what they'd been asking for that my old company kept postponing. Innovation, speed, decision-making power, all the things I had been told to wait for. That afternoon, I flew back to Chicago for a dinner meeting. Same steakhouse my old boss used to take clients to. This time, I was at the head of the table. The client leaned back in his chair and smiled. "We always knew you were the strategic one." Always knew. Funny how companies forget what clients remember. 3 weeks later, the contract was signed. 7 figures, multi-year, and public. Industry news picked it up within days. Sterling and Pierce secures major Midwest account in strategic expansion move. Back at Harper & Cole, I heard there was an emergency board meeting. Revenue projections adjusted, territory pressure rising, leadership accountability questioned. Ethan? Overwhelmed. My former boss? Now explaining to executives how he didn't see this coming. But he did. He saw me. He just didn't see my ceiling. One evening, about a month into my new role, I got an email from him. Subject line, "Congratulations." Inside, "I underestimated the speed of your trajectory. Wishing you success." No apology, but acknowledgement. And that was enough. I didn't respond, not out of anger, but because closure doesn't always require a reply. Sometimes, success is the final sentence. A year ago, I sat in that glass conference room and heard, "Maybe next year." What he meant was, not yet, not here, not like this. What he didn't realize was, next year doesn't belong to managers. It belongs to the people bold enough to claim it. And I did, because sometimes the best promotion is the one you give yourself.